much for having me here. Look, I'm really envious of people doing their PhD in psychology these days. When I did my PhD in psychology back in the UK, it was last century even, a little bit longer ago than yours. But back in the day, I had really two choices. I could focus on sick people, or I could focus on sad people, or I could focus on mentally imbalanced people and try and get them to be well again. So the idea there was to take them from being substandard to just raise them up to be hopefully neutral. That was kind of the emphasis that was always given to me. My other option was figuring out why people make the decisions that they do. And actually that focused on why they make bad decisions, or why they make the wrong decision, or why they make decisions that ruin their life. That was kind of the focus there. And I remember talking to my supervisor once, actually, pretty early on in my PhD, because I hadn't worked in psychology a lot before, but pretty early on in my PhD, and he said, you know, Emma, our job here is to just figure out why people are sick and make them better, and that was pretty much it. And I didn't really want to operate that way. So I'm pretty envious, because nowadays there's this massive field of positive psychology, or the science of happiness, that kind of stuff. And this area of positive psychology that focuses on happiness, it's not just about happiness like oh, that was a nice thing, moving on. It's this abundant kind of ongoing happiness that you feel when things are going well, these positive emotions that keep on coming out. And that's the kind of positive psychology that's going on at the moment. For years, you know, we were always pretty keen to be happy. I think when you ask somebody what they want out of life, they pretty much say, I want to be happy and healthy. And the problem is that when you say to them, okay, how do you get to be happy and healthy? What will make you happy? They say, oh, you know, when I get that promotion, or when I've earned that $1 million, or when I've got that next Audi. You know, for Kiwis, it's a batch, a boat and an Audi usually. So that's what we're after. But what this new field is showing us is that we've got it really backwards. It's not the success that leads to the happiness, it's actually happiness that leads to success. So we've got it totally around the wrong way. It's pretty interesting stuff, because when we are happy, our brains actually change. We think about things in different ways. When we're unhappy, we get this whole fight or flight kind of thing going on, and we just have these two options, and that's it. I've just got to choose between, you know, a really bad option and another really bad option. But when we're happy, it's a lot more, you know, it's an abundant universe and everything's going well. So it actually our brain primes us up for success in ways that it doesn't when we're feeling rotten. Like I say, over the last kind of 15 years, there's been a lot of work in this area, a lot of research. People who get up to do a presentation when they're happy tend to do a better job. I've just been totally freaked out, so that might not be me. People who are doing a maths test, if they go into the maths test with positive emotions, they do a better maths test. A lot of students kind of do that one. And flip, if ever you need to go into rush to a hospital with a mystery illness, just take some time to get your doctor happy, because one of the really compelling studies shows that if your doctor is feeling happy and positive when they go into your diagnosis, they open their brain up to creative ways, they use their gut intuition a whole lot better, and they get to an accurate diagnosis 19% faster than somebody on a neutral feeling. So just take a moment, tell some jokes, whatever you need to do. So I kind of got to thinking, you know, if that's the truth for individuals, if happiness leads to success in individuals, then what does that mean for organisations? And I reckon that the same holds true. I reckon that for organisations, success doesn't lead to happiness, happiness leads to success. Ta-da! So I want to kind of go through three things today. I want to give you what I consider to be compelling proof, but I'll just dip into that because there's so much out there. I also want to talk to you very briefly about the attributes of what a happy organisation would look like. And then I want to talk about some of the level of control we might have over happiness in our organisation. So there's already been quite a lot of proof that that this is the case, that success doesn't lead to happiness, happiness leads to success. I'll give you three different things. We know that happiness leads to strong teams. So it's something that we kind of intuitively know, and a lot of that sort of stuff comes out of organisational direction research. We know that happy teams are strong teams. They work really well together. They collaborate well together. They're more willing to try things because it's not such a big deal to fail because nobody's going to jump down their neck and fire them. They are more willing to put their hands up if they think that something's going wrong or if they think that there's a danger afoot within the team. They're a lot stronger and a lot more resilient. And that kind of stuff is hugely important if you want to reap the benefits of design thinking. So, I'm a big fan of design thinking as a powerful way to create good value for an organisation, and that kind of safety in a team is really, really important. So happiness plays a big role in there. Happiness also leads to productivity. Possibly at your own work you have to do, internal kind of engagement surveys, and there's a reason for that. It's because loss of productivity is a huge thing for organisations, and happiness is a really strong contributor to good productivity. In the US annually, about $300 billion is lost due to productivity that's associated with lack of engagement and lack of happiness in the workforce. Some people say that up to 30% of productivity is gained if you have a happy and engaged team. So pretty compelling facts there. We also know that happiness actually leads to fewer sick days. So it's up to 15 days a year for unhappy people versus, additional sick days per year. So 15 days. This is me actually, I was clearly very unhappy at the time. There was a study that was done, I think it was 2003 by Cohen and colleagues, and I seriously don't know how they got ethical permission to do this, but they grabbed a bunch of people together. They they analysed them for their happiness levels and figured out how happy they all were. Then they infected them with the common cold. We would have never been able to do that at Warwick University, however. They infected them with the common cold. A week later they followed up. And I think they followed up a week after that as well. And what they found was that the people who scored happy at the beginning, they were far less likely to get a cold. They had far fewer symptoms if they did get a cold, so they sneezed less, their temperature was down, all that kind of stuff. And they also recovered a lot more quickly than people who were not just grumpy bums, but just neutral. So the happiness really takes you further. So again, I reckon that success doesn't lead to happiness. Happiness leads to success within an organisation. I also think that the things that contribute to happiness will also contribute to success within an organisation. There are quite a few things that contribute to happiness, but there are three really big hitters that I think it's worth covering. The first one is compassion. Compassion is really interesting because it actually changes your brain physically. It changes your brain by linking together a whole lot of neurons, and there's a part of your brain, lots of you will be nodding because you know about happiness, which is good. There's a part of your brain which does a lot of work in the area of happiness. It's kind of where your happy juices flow, and it's a scientific term, by the way. And when you experience compassion, and particularly a form of compassionate meditation called compassionate loving kindness meditation, this part of your brain really fires up. New neurons are formed, pathways connect, and over time that part of your brain actually starts to kind of just get strong like it's a muscle, and it starts to physically change and physically grow. So it's pretty compelling stuff. The weird thing about this, I think, is that if you meditate every night for about 20 minutes, or morning or whenever suits you, but every day for 20 minutes, over 2 weeks, you'll start to really feel the positive benefits. And this is the weird thing for me. You don't actually have to do anything about your compassionate feelings. You can just sit there and feel sorry for other people who are in a bad state, and just, your heart goes out to them, and that's it. You don't have to do anything. You just sit in your living room and you get all these benefits of great happiness. So that's one really important thing. Another contributor to happiness is conscious acts of kindness. Now, in the field, we used to talk about this as random acts of kindness, but it's really important actually that they're not random. You have to decide to do it. You have to decide to go out and do something nice for people for no other reason than it's a nice thing to do. So you have to just be conscious about it and be mindful. This one doesn't change your brain so much, it just kind of makes you feel good, and it's more of a chemical release for this one. But if you can do 5 nice things a day, they don't have to be massive things, but 5 acts of kindness a day, that's enough to have a lasting effect a week later. So when you start to kind of build this up, you really get some serious happiness capital in the bank. Where we start to see this the most in business, I think, is around corporate responsibility. So a lot of organisations are starting to do this as part of their drive to be just good corporate citizens. I was speaking with somebody from the Telecom Foundation during the week, and she was, very clearly pointing out they don't do this for the purpose of good PR. They do it because they think that if they're going to be a successful business, they need to operate in a viable society, and this is just part of making sure that the society that they live in is healthy and strong so that they can keep, working with telecom, I guess. They've got a really strong program in place. They focus absolutely on compassion and acts of kindness. They have staff days off where they go into the community and they do stuff. They raise money by shaving their head. They have a payroll giving system, and about 1/5 of the organisation actually contribute donations through their payroll, which is really high for New Zealand. So really successful. The person that I was talking to, I was really keen to get some stats. I wanted to say, right, I'm going to go out there and tell people that this makes good business sense, so can you tell me all your stats, please? And she said, look, that's just not what it's about for us. However, I can tell you anecdotal evidence. And all the anecdotal evidence is around absolutely better brand recognition, absolutely better positive brand association with the telecom brand, absolutely better staff engagement and happiness, leading to productivity, leading to fewer sick days, leading to a loyalty to the company. So I think that over time this sort of stuff's going to start to see turnover go down, retention go up, both internally with your team and also externally with your customers. I think it's really powerful. The third one that I want to tell you about, if I can click on, is gratitude. Now again, this is another one that you don't actually have to do anything about. What you have to do is just take a moment to be grateful. It's kind of like counting your blessings or something like that. Now the secret number here is 5 once a week. So just all at one time. I know people are just wanting to do the bare minimum around here sometimes. So just 5 once a week. So maybe on a Sunday night or whatever, just think of 5 things that you're really grateful for in your life, and again, that'll start to get your happiness quotient going, which is pretty good. The cool thing about this is that it teaches the mind to scan for opportunities. So if you sit down regularly and think to yourself, what nice things have happened that I'm grateful for, it's actually the first time you do it, it's actually pretty hard, which I don't know if that just says something about me, but I kind of go, oh, and then you kind of get going, but you get the hang of it, and that's the point, that after time you learn how to see good things in the world. When you've been playing, I keep looking at this, Tetris too long, and over time you go to sleep and you wake up and all you can see is the Tetris blocks and how you're going to do it. It's kind of like that. Your brain starts to scan to see patterns, and it sees the good stuff instead of the bad stuff. That ultimately makes people more optimistic, because you're looking around and you're going, hey, that's cool, and I'm grateful for that, and that's wicked, and I could do that, and all these positive, optimistic moments come rushing kind of through your brain. Again, you don't have to do anything about your gratitude. You don't have to send anyone a thank you card or anything like that. You just be grateful, and these good things happen. It's really important for a couple of reasons. Again, this optimism is a very important thing in business. Martin Seligman, who's actually kind of like the father of this area of psychology, he was the first one to show just how massive optimism plays, how massive a part it plays in business. He did some work with sales teams in an insurance company and found that the optimistic salespeople outsold their pessimistic counterparts by 56%, which if you're in sales, you'd be feeling pretty good. And of course, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because the ones who are outselling the others are like, woohoo, check me out. So the happiness is leading to the success, and the success just keeps on going. The optimism is also really important because it opens your mind to the possibilities, so you are a lot more free to think, oh yeah, that could work, because life's good and everything's great and I can see these possibilities. Optimism's really different from rose-tinted glasses, but optimism is really good stuff. And again, that's really important in a design, if you want to reap the benefits of design and design thinking. When we do work in our organisation coaching companies to become design integrated, one of the kind of mantras that we say is default to the positive. You've got to always think about things in the best possible light, because the world will sort the rest of it out for you, I reckon. If you do, this is my gratitude book, by the way, such a geek, I'll write them down on post-it notes and put it in there. If you do want to do something about your gratitude as a company, so I think you'll get the benefits anyway, but if you want to do something about your gratitude as a company, you could actually give thanks. My mum took a flight a wee while ago, and she was sitting next to somebody who had 2 children, and they didn't have seats for them, and the person thought that they could just have their 2 babies and belt themselves in, and the flight crew kind of came down and went, no, this isn't going to work, you're going to have to get off and we're going to have to unpack your bags, and the kids were screaming, and Mum, who looks like a very non-threatening person because she is, she said, look, I'll have one of the kids, I'm a mother and a grandmother, it'll be fine. Everyone was quite taken aback. Long story short, rode with the child on her lap all the way to Auckland, everything was fine. Mum didn't think much more of it. The flight crew obviously did, because they not only went away and instead of thinking, oh, blimey heck, that was such a drag, I think they thought, hey, wow, that was cool, that lady really helped us out. And they acted on it. They sent Mum a bunch of flowers. So the beautiful bunch of flowers was waiting for her when she got home from her trip. And like I said to somebody earlier, Mum's not huge on social media. She won't be watching this right now, and she's also quite humble, but in her own way, she's told a lot of people that story. She's got such great loyalty to the organisation, this particular, Air New Zealand. Sorry. I'm already up to telecom, I might as well up Air New Zealand. Thank you, Air New Zealand. So I think it's a really good way to build some brand awareness and brand loyalty for an organisation. I want to just really quickly talk about, if you were an organisation who wanted to implement a happiness strategy as an organisation, some of the things that you would need to do, some of the attributes. We've talked about compassion, we've talked about conscious acts of kindness, we've talked about gratitude, enabling money. A really important one is eliminating negative emotions and reactions. So this number up here is something pretty famous. A researcher called Lasada did some work around how many positive interactions you need to overcome the disastrous stuff of a negative interaction within a workplace. And the magic number looks a bit like pi, but it comes, roughly speaking, every single negative interaction that you have in the workplace needs 3 positive interactions to overcome it. And to be a really great team, you actually need 6 positive interactions for every single negative. So you know how there are those people in your organisation who are just bullies and people call them cultural cancer or whatever? Chop them. Thanks very much.
Awesome.